How's it going, Admiral Army? It's your boy Addy here. And before I started this article today, I wanted to take a second to sort of think back. I wanted to preface this with some factual information about things that have happened in the past. So, as we all know, at the beginning of the COVID experience, the coronavirus pandemic, governors such as Gretchen Whitmer and Cuomo sent COVID patients, people who had tested positive for COVID, into nursing homes. And if there is one thing we know about this virus, it is that it is much more likely to kill people who are older. And yet, can you guess whose fault that would be that those people died? Why, Trump's fault, of course. If you answered that correct, you get a point here. We're keeping score today, I guess. Now let us also recollect the memory, and I have a firm one of it, a fond one of it, because I remember laughing so hard about it afterwards. Can you remember Nancy Pelosi possibly standing in Chinatown saying, "Come on down to Chinatown, don't listen to Trump, he's a xenophobe, don't you know? Just come on down to Chinatown and we'll have a great time, kick back, maybe butt chug some brewskis." And now, whose fault is that? Why, President Trump said again, congratulations, you're really good at this game actually. That's 2 points for you. Keep it up. Now we have one final question here before we get straight into the facts of this video. Whose fault was it that Governor Newsom and many other governors, mayors, you name it, decided to eat out at restaurants that actually probably cost about as much for a meal as you get in your stimulus check? Why, it is Trump's fault again. You know, it's not Governor Newsom's fault for closing down the economy, completely destroying California, making Elon Musk leave, one of the best people of all time. He leaves your city, you know you messed up. But it's Trump's fault, of course, because it always is somehow. Why is it that it is always the Republicans' fault? There are many different answers to that question, honestly, but two of the main ones that I've found is because, one, Republican representatives are just the most spineless people you will come into contact with. You have Mitch McConnell, the slug man himself, pretty much saying, "Don't follow Trump's orders, just do what the Democrats want, please, and I will roll over and die for you." Just wanting people to like him. It's honestly just disgraceful. How about you stand up, get some dignity, get a little honor, maybe hit the gym a bit. You might be feeling better about yourself, McConnell. Just some personal advice. And the second answer, of course, would be the media, militarizing people who are just abhorrently uninformed and think that they are political geniuses. You will have people on Twitter who, no matter what a Republican says, the top comment will pretty much always be, "This is the number of COVID deaths in your state." Something entirely unrelated to what the person is saying. Sometimes you'll have Republican representatives even quoting like Psalms, not palms as Biden has called it, Psalms, pretty much declaring their faith, and people just hit them with, "Well, this is how many people died in your state, so maybe you should be praying harder." That's all that has been created by the media. This sort of snap back, "I got you now." And it just breeds the epitome of stupidity, honestly. And that, of course, segues into Politico. If you want to gain some brain cells, I call this website the brain workout, because this is where you go to get smart here, Politico. But before we get into this article, share this video. It really is one of the best ways to help the Admiral get his word out there. Post it on Twitter or something. Maybe even just send it to Cuomo or Pelosi. Just let them know, hey, we remember what you did, and it's not Trump's fault. Send them something funny. Maybe even just tell them they suck. I don't know. It's your decision. Maybe consider donating to the Admiral at Carson-Eastman-2 on Venmo. I need some new Iron Dome 9 defense systems. I didn't get put on the omnibus bill, so it's getting difficult to afford these things myself. And of course, demolish the subscribe button and the like button. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this brain-busting news article that we are about to delve into. So as we see here, Trump misses 20 million COVID shot target. Wow. So Trump obviously... Well, actually, let's rewind here a second. Do you guys recall the time in which Dr. Fauci, actually in October, said that this virus, or this vaccine, won't even be released until 2021? There is no way. I remember there was just a plethora of statements like that by Democratic leaders all across the board. This is impossible. No one would ever be able to do this, especially not the orange man. That is bad. And yet Operation Warp Speed, true to its name, destroyed it. Not I can't say destroyed it, not destroyed the virus, but destroyed their predictions for when it would release. And yet now it is Trump's fault that it isn't on target for the amount of vaccines that people will get. But what if I were to tell you, and I know this may be hard for some of you to believe, that it is actually not Trump's fault the vaccines are not being released? They've been actually distributed to the states. The states have the vaccines, those that need them. And yet, once again, at the state level, they're just holding things up. I wonder if it's to sort of give Trump this bad portrayal. Not like they do that before. Not like sending nursing homes into, or sending COVID patients into a nursing home when it inflate the death number. But it is still Trump's fault entirely. Trump is this omniscient being that is actually able to float around and magically help people around the world if he had the willpower to do so. He single-handedly distributes the vaccines, if you didn't know. I see him running laps all around the hospital. Here you go. But he just gets lazy and decides not to distribute 20 million COVID shots. So it's sort of his fault again, not the governor's fault, not anyone at the state level's fault, even though they have the vaccines probably just sitting on them. And things like this really do make you question, where can you even go politically from here? The Democratic and Republican Party have sort of separated so far at this point. They sort of live in two separate realities, to quote CNN, even though they would call ours the fictional one, when their reality is the one where the president has the ability to do whatever he wants. He has the ability to single-handedly pass out all of these vaccines and make sure that they get delivered, even though he already single-handedly created the vaccine in a faster time frame than anyone ever could have ever done before. Fastest time by far. But it's his fault that they're not getting distributed at the state level. I ask you this then, Democrats. What could Trump do to get these COVID shots out? How is it possibly Trump's fault that these vaccines are not being distributed? As we clearly see in the article here, it says, the calendar will flip over into 2021 with the U.S. well short of its goal of vaccinating 20 million Americans against the coronavirus. With the pandemic still raging, at least 2.6 million have received the first two COVID shots, while over 12.4 million doses have been delivered to the states, according to the Center for Disease Control's most recent figures from Wednesday morning. At that rate, it could take years to inoculate 80% of the population. The figure public health experts generally say is necessary to achieve herd immunity against the virus. What's funny about that statement is that's actually what Dr. Fauci has stated, but the CDC previously had said that it was 70% that is needed for this to happen. So, per YouTube's guidelines, who is correct? Am I allowed to make this statement that 80% of the population is required, or is it 70%? I don't want to provide misinformation. And YouTube directly abides by what the CDC says, so whose word is it? Do I take Fauci, who was incorrect before, or do I just take the CDC's, who everyone tries to turn to whenever they need it, or Fauci, who they do the same for? It's funny how whenever someone needs the science to back exactly what they believe, that's when the science is dead accurate and not wrong in any ways. Now, some of you may think that I'm being a bit crazy here and thinking that the media is biased. I've never heard this in my life. They'd always tell me the truth. I read the headlines at least, and the headlines say Trump is bad, so as we know, Trump is bad. Of course, the news doesn't lie. Well, let us check out this statement here, this fact check. I love fact checks, as you guys know. That's definitely the most scholarly way to find out information. This fact check here is Cuomo directive to blame for nursing home COVID deaths as U.S. official claims? And this is mostly false, of course. I mean, him sending people with patients with COVID to nursing homes, inevitably resulting in many more people dying. That's just, how is that even mostly false? I don't understand the logic behind that at all. That is what happened. They even state it here. One of the Republicans, I assume, called him out for it, and this is their retort to that. It was an easy jab. Cuomo has been dogged by criticisms for months over his March advisory directing nursing homes in the state to accept patients who had or were suspected of having COVID-19. That sounds about the worst idea possible. I would never in a million years imagine that idea to be something that you should do when this virus is going around. Of all the people who you would assume would be vulnerable, it would be the nursing home people, which leads me to question what his motive behind making that advisory would be. I couldn't imagine any reason in someone's mind to create something like that? Many of you may have seen the video of this person who was released from jail to this nursing home because he tested positive for COVID, and he's just beating up this old white guy in the nursing home for no reason. He never should have been there in the first place. I don't understand how it is even defensible to do something like that, to send people who are sick to a nursing home specifically, an area where you would assume with any sort of intellect people would die at. Kind of makes me wonder it was sort of a way to smear the president. But I don't want to get into conspiracy crazy land here. So this is what a statement looks like that is mostly false when a Republican says it. Something that is direct, linear, makes a statement that is factually true, and yet these deaths get put on Trump's doorstep. It is his fault, not Cuomo's. Cuomo was the one at the state level, once more, responsible for providing the advisory that led to this occurrence happening, but yet it's Trump's fault once more. Cuomo gets this get out of jail free card that I don't see many on the right getting. It's sort of a get in jail free card for the right, which led me to question, I wonder what a fact check from someone on the right would look like. Let's check it out. So from PolitiFact, we have here the American Medical Association rescinded a previous statement and now says hydroxychloroquine is okay for COVID-19. And this is something that Rush Limbaugh has said. For those of you that don't know, the American Medical Association previously stated that hydroxychloroquine is not a safe alternative for COVID treatment. It's not something that you should use. You had people accusing Trump of trying to convince people to drink bleach, and there's no logic behind that. Of course, you don't need logic in order to make a valid statement to someone on the left. But as we can see, this is marked as false. So clearly we should take this at its word. There's not much more research to be done into this. Unless by chance, we just happen to have the docket here from the AMA about their rescinded statement here. Wait, is that correct? How did I get this information? You mean to tell me I looked something up and actually found out that this is not true and that PolitiFact, my favorite website, would lie to me? Yes, that is exactly true. Open your eyes, open your mind, maybe you'll see the truth once in a while at least. So their statement here is, by issuing an updated statement clarifying our support for a physician's ability to prescribe an FDA-approved medication for off-label use, if it is in his or her best clinical judgment with specific reference to the use of hydroxychloroquine and combination therapies for the treatment of the earliest stages of COVID. Wow, so that sounds to me like they're saying, yes, this is something that could actually be used to treat COVID. You were telling me that months ago when Trump said this and was laughed at by the left, it becomes a reality. It's almost as if Trump had in-depth information and insight into things that would possibly be useful in fighting the vaccine. Maybe that's exactly how Operation Warp Speed was able to create a vaccine faster than any time ever before. But yet, to be someone on the left, you don't need to know that. You just got to look at the back of your Windex bottle or whatever it's in and realize, wow, hydroxychloroquine is in this? This is insane. This will kill people. Now, to those of you whose minds have just been blown by the fact that hydroxychloroquine can be in dangerous chemicals, but at the same time can be used to treat this dangerous ailment, think of common table salt. Did you know that chloride by itself is very toxic and poisonous to you? But when mixed with sodium, it creates table salt, something you can consume actually, and it won't harm you. Well, to a certain extent. There are things in this world that alone will be poisonous to the human consumption, but when combined with other elements, creates an entirely different product. But that's too deep. That's not worthy of a headline. I can't just put that in the title of something. That'd be ludicrous. I have to blame Trump for something. Now, I also had this article pulled up, of course, of Kamala Harris receiving the first vaccine. Another example of the hypocrisy. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. The video is getting a little long. But do we also remember when Kamala Harris said, "There's no way I'll take Trump's vaccine. That'd be crazy. What am I trying to die? Trump made this." And then she says that she's one of the first ones to receive it. Thank Trump then, Kamala Harris. You can go on ahead and publicly tweet at him or something. Say, thank you, Trump. I accept this vaccine. I'm very proud to be a resident of the United States currently. who is able to take this. But that'll never happen. She's probably going to blame Trump for it, as they always do. Well, that's my spiel on this one. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Share it with some friends. Tell Nancy Pelosi to get out of office because she sucks. And that'll be it for this one. Goodbye.